Leading AIDS scientists have joined the clarion call urging members of the U.S. Congress to support the continuation of U.S. presidency's emergency program for AIDS relief, also known as PEPFAR. Now, this is the largest commitment by any single country to address this particular disease, and now it is set to expire later this month, but there's a lot of bickering about this particular one in Congress. And let's speak to Professor Salim Abdool Kaim, who is the Center for the AIDS Program of Research SA Director. Prof, thank you so much for your time. A pleasure to have you this evening. Let's start by talking about the significance and contribution of this program, especially in the fight against HIV/AIDS.
It's a very good evening to you and to the viewers. When we look at the global response to HIV, PEPFAR, which is funded by the US government, together with the Global Fund that deals with malaria, TB, and HIV, are the two big players that have enabled the world to deal with this pandemic of HIV. And they've done so through a mechanism which we broadly call global solidarity. It's where rich countries are willing to put funds and make those available so that even the poorest individual in the remotest village in Africa have access to antiretrovirals. Essentially, they've converted AIDS from a uniform death sentence to one that we know is readily treatable with antiretrovirals. And our big concern is that this program that has existed for the past 20 years expires at the end of this month, and it requires US Congress to reauthorize it for the next 5 years. And they haven't done so because Republican members of the Congress have insisted on some new requirements relating to abortion. Now, these requirements are unrelated to anything in this program. This is just using this opportunity to push a political agenda on abortion that is now stalling one of the world's most important AIDS programs.
And Prof, you know, listening to what you're saying then, I suppose you're echoing the sentiments of those who are watching this particular story unfold, who say that these abortion-related restrictions should be a conversation on their own, separate to what is happening with this particular global response to HIV, instead of being lumped into one.
On the hand that if the Republican members of Congress want to insist on certain requirements relating to abortions, there are mechanisms to deal with that. What they are doing is using a very popular program that has always had bipartisan support. Remember, PEPFAR was originally created by a Republican president and has Republican support very strongly behind it generally. They are hijacking it for a political purpose, and they are in the process putting in peril treatment that's being made available to millions of people across 55 countries that PEPFAR supports. And that's what's unconscionable about what is going on right now.
And someone thinks, for example, about the surveillance that, you know, healthcare services is able to do because of this, the work that can be done when it comes to this particular commitment. But let's speak to someone who's watching tonight and make them understand that all this politicking as it continues, should it not be renewed? What is at stake?
So the three big problems we anticipate that if PEPFAR is not renewed, if it's not reauthorized for the next 5 years, the first big problem we're going to have is that treatment that's widely available right now and is being made available through PEPFAR will no longer be made available. So that means that we will now see a resurgence in HIV. We'll see more people now stopping treatment, and that will lead to more drug resistance. And we will see more people progress from HIV to getting AIDS, the clinical illness. And we might see a reversal in the deaths that PEPFAR has been working so hard over the last 20 years to achieve. So there will be a reversal in the pandemic trajectory and a resurgence, and most likely that resurgence will include drug-resistant forms of HIV. But PEPFAR is more than just an AIDS treatment program. It's the basis on which many countries establish their responses to other pandemics and other diseases as well.
And Prof, I was going to end off with that, because that particular response was even laid bare even when, you know, the COVID-19 pandemic hit us and we were looking at this coordinated response. So taking away the solidarity response is definitely something detrimental.
So, I mean, many of our activities, even during COVID, the PEPFAR infrastructure, whether it's laboratory infrastructure, pharmacy infrastructure, clinical infrastructure, all of those things that go towards caring for patients, making sure we have the laboratory testing available, a lot of that was actually established and was built by PEPFAR for HIV. And that's what enabled South Africa and many countries in Africa to respond better to COVID as a result of this program. And putting this program in jeopardy now means that we will compromise all of those capabilities, and that's what's quite concerning.
And it is concerning indeed, Prof, and I hope we speak again closer to the time, and even if there are other developments, to see what happens on this front, whether the bickering and the politicking, because they're looking ahead at the next election, as you say. It's all about politics, but really lives are at stake here. Let me thank you for your time. Do appreciate it. That is Professor Salim Abdool Karim, Center for the AIDS Program of Research, SA Director. And we'll continue to monitor this particular story, because certainly it's one of global concern.